Hello everyone! I hope you're having an amazing day, because if you're having an amazing day, well, I'm having an amazing day. And if I'm having an amazing day, you should also be having an amazing day. Today I'd like to talk about the chicken bones boys. Yes, those TikTok influencers in Malaysia who came up with this bright idea of feeding chicken bones to a homeless man. Now, they literally took the literal interpretation of the saying, beggars can't be choosers, and in an act of extreme cruelty decided to pull off a prank on the homeless man by feeding him chicken bones. Now, of course, we do acknowledge that homelessness is a natural result of late-stage capitalism. In fact, homeless people are part of the reserve army of labor, which refers to the desperate and struggling people who can always take your job if you happen to rub the capitalist the wrong way. And basically, homelessness as well as crippling debt, these things are not accidents of late-stage capitalism, but they are rather features of the system which keeps capitalism on life support by taking away the bargaining power of the workers in order to basically negotiate for better wages and better conditions. Because basically when you have a mass of struggling people, then the capitalist basically can tell you that, remember, you're lucky to have a job because there are always going to be people who want your job. And then you'll shut up. But the point is, when I read about those three boys who carried out that atrocious act of cruelty towards that homeless man, I was thinking about a video that I made a couple of months ago called The Cruelty of Meritocracy. Now, I wasn't attacking meritocracy outright. I certainly don't want an untrained dentist operating on my mouth, and I certainly do not want an untrained teacher teaching my children. And my students' parents agree that they don't want an untrained English teacher imparting the language of Shakespeare, Milton, and Charles Dickens to their children. That's why they hire me, you see. Not just some random abeng on the street. They hire the baba, who's good enough to teach your children, but not good enough to marry your daughters, apparently. Anyway, yes. The fact of the matter is that late-stage capitalism, or the idea of meritocracy itself, can lead to what Michael Sandel describes as meritocratic hubris. Go read his book, The Tyranny of Meritocracy. Don't get all your knowledge from ChatGPT or from Grok, whatever. Go and actually talk to a human being and read. And it is this meritocratic hubris, this meritocratic tyranny that breeds people like Lee Kuan Yew, who believe that some people are inherently meant to lead and some people are inherently meant to obey. But of course, Lee Kuan Yew even extended that to races, like there were certainly some races in his view that were inherently better than others. But let's go back to the chicken bones boys. What you see here is an example of the tyranny of meritocracy, or the meritocratic hubris that has been taken to an extreme. The belief, in the same way the Brahmin believed that the untouchable deserves his lot in life due to bad karma in a past life, the meritocratic tyrant believes that homeless people can be treated however they like, meaning they can treat homeless people however they like, they can treat the poor with absolute contempt and disdain, and they don't have to worry about it because, well, they simply got in those positions due to their bad choices in life. So it's important to understand the material conditions which led to this mentality And this mentality did not arise in a vacuum. You know, as dialectical materialists, we don't consider people to be inherently evil, but rather a product of their material conditions, right? So those boys, you see, might be fined a couple of thousand ringgit, or they might be jailed for 2 years. But I think neither of these punishments will really suffice in the long run, because what you want to do is to heal society, not punish. Because when you punish, you are not really rectifying the problem. In fact, if you execute a criminal or you throw him in prison without making him self-reflect, why, you're simply absolving him of the responsibility of doing any personal reflection. Have you ever read the autobiography of Puyi, the last emperor? It's called From Emperor to Citizen, and I'll put a link of it in the description box so you can read it, okay? If you've read that autobiography, you would know that Puyi was the last emperor of China before he was overthrown in 1911 by the nationalists. Then he got back into power because he became a puppet emperor for the Japanese, right? Now, Puyi was not a good man. Puyi was a horrible man in his youth. Did you know that Puyi would prank eunuchs by spraying them with water hoses because he thought it was very funny, in the same way the chicken bones boys thought it was very funny to give a homeless man chicken bones, right? He would put nails into cakes and force the eunuchs to eat those cakes for his amusement, right? But when the communists captured Puyi, they did not shoot him, they did not kill him, they did not torture him. Do you know what they made him do? They put a shovel in his hand and they told him, earn your dignity. Do dignified labor, work and earn your dignity. They put a notebook in his hand and they made him self-reflect on his own class position and his own his own bad behavior, which resulted from his class position. Because the goal of the communists was not to punish, but to make him self-reflect. When Puyi was put in incarceration and made to do dignified labor and self-reflection, he changed, okay? After a couple of years of re-education, Puyi emerged a respectable man. He was no longer the emperor of China, he was no longer a stuck-up socialite, but he was happy. I made my students, my tuition students, read excerpts from his autobiography, and I showed him pictures of his before and after transformation. And do you know what one of the girls said? He looks a lot happier now that he's free. And I think that many of these people, like the the chicken bones boy, you know, they themselves are not victims, but they are slaves of the system, meaning that they have subscribed to this belief that there are superior and inferior people. So you don't simply find them, because when you find them, well, you are basically saying that money solves everything. And finding people doesn't really punish them, because their parents can jolly well pay the fine. If their father is like a tauke, he can pay the fine, right? You don't put them in prison either, because putting them in prison, well, just makes them feel persecuted, like a martyr, right? So what do? Make them work. Make them do community service. Make them do dignified labor. And make them reflect upon their actions. You know? I'm a Confucian as well. I know the Chinese outros don't like hearing this, but I'm a Confucian. I don't speak Chinese, but I regard myself as Confucian. And there was a time when Confucius was visiting a duke, okay? And this duke asked Confucius, if I were to kill the unjust in order to protect the just, would you consider that to be noble? Confucius said, if you rule with justice, why would there be any need to kill anyone in the first place? The ruler is the wind, and the grass are the people. The grass bends in the direction the wind blows, you see. So Confucius was basically a dialectical materialist. Thousands of years before dialectical materialism was even concocted. Because Confucius understood that systems are the problem, not individual people. Individual people are products of the system. So as long as we don't change the base and we retain the economic base of late-stage capitalism, we will always see instances of this sort of cruelty, because these individuals are merely responding to the profit motive. They probably knew that their video would get a lot of clicks because it was an outrageous video and it enraged a lot of people, right? So when you teach people that the only thing that's important is their profit motive, why then you, in the end, create a very cruel and callous and selfish population. And that's why I'm a socialist. Even though I don't call myself a strict Marxist, I certainly don't call myself a flag-waving, star-capped commie. I still believe that socialism is the only way forward. It may not be the socialism of Mao's China or Stalin's Russia, but definitely we need a change. Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And tomorrow, look forward to my video on why Baba Nyonyas are not part of your Chinese diaspora. Cheerio!